welcome everybody. I am Lauren Needham, the New York State Coordinator for SADD, and I'm super excited to talk with you all tonight. We are talking about everyone's least favorite subject, social media. Some people are gonna love this, some people are gonna hate it, some people are utterly terrified by it, and that's totally fine. I completely understand that. We have some coordinators that are not overly fond of it either. This is something that I feel like we all really need this quick download on because it is our present. It's not our future, it's our present, and we all need to be very, very part of it. So when we're talking about social, we need to be using this for our chapters. We need to be putting things up there about meetings and events that are going on, sharing the things that we're doing, all of the great work that we're doing in traffic safety and prevention. It's really important. Just a note, we are recording this, so if you do not want to be on camera full time, you can just go ahead and shut your camera off. Slide that little window over. So, social can feel very confusing. I often feel like this meme. So, you know, how do you do, fellow kids? We're going to talk about the social media today and the Facebook. So we're going to talk about the basics of social, why we're using the platforms that we do, how to track what it is that's working best, those best practices that we can really use, and why it's important for us to use those socials for our chapters instead of just doing like the same stuff we've always done. I swear it'll be as painless as I can make it. So let's get to know you and what you're most confused about. What's the scariest thing for you about social?
I'm afraid of posting where I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Yeah. Like I always question like who's gonna see this kind of thing, and I'm afraid it's more people than I want.
Yeah, once you put it out into the internet, that's it. It's gone forever.
I'm afraid of posting, trying to be catchy, but at the same time trying to make sure that it's still within the parameters of, you know, being respectful or trying to find the right way to hook people, but not knowing what is right necessarily. Yeah,
so reaching our demographic without either offending them or off-putting them or offending someone else for that matter. Yeah, it's a tough line to not have the same lingo as the kids these days. Any other winners? We often hear that this is a problem for some for their district. Their district will not allow them to have a social media account for their chapter, or they're concerned generally about privacy and management of the chapter's social media. Who's going to take care of it? Who's going to keep it up? Who's going to make sure that they're appropriately posting things when they're supposed to and not engaging with other accounts that are not appropriate? So we'll talk about some of those pitfalls and ways to avoid them as we get through this. But I think one of the main things to talk about is really how socials stack up in the greater internet atmosphere. So when we look at the best platforms for growing the most engagement, this is sort of how they stack up. And what we like to say is good social is about good engagement. If you don't have good engagement and you're not getting that reciprocal kind of engagement from the folks that you follow and that follow you, then you're really not engaging on social in the right ways and it's really not making a difference. So when we look at what works, we know that Instagram is really beating out all of the others by 70%. It's 70% higher engagement rate than Facebook. It's just outweighing all of its competitors. So it comes down to a lot of things, like how often people are looking at your account, how often they're engaging with the content that's on it, if they're liking things, if they're, you know, thumbs upping, if they are engaging in those stickers and things that you put on Instagram stories, or if they're retweeting your content, things like that. Are they going to your website through a link you put up? Are they doing a survey or completing some sort of actionable item? And we find that the most of that content or that activity happens on Instagram. There's a couple other reasons we like that too. But social is really about consistent engagement. So we have to think about some things. All of the platforms that we use through SADD National and through our coordinator network, which include Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you know, the big ones, YouTube, they all require consistent engagement to be successful. And what that means is different on each platform, but what it means is not posting something 1 week and then leaving it for 3 weeks to just like sit there and think that it's continuing to be seen. With something like Instagram or Twitter, if you're not posting pretty consistently, it's getting lost in the shuffle, it's way down in the feed, people are not scrolling down to it anymore. So you have to think about a couple of things when you're choosing a platform and how you're going to engage with that platform and what kind of time you have to do that. So one of the first things you have to consider is your audience. Who do you want this info to be seen by? Who is it for? Is it for your club members? Is it for meetings and events, things like that? Or should the whole school see it? Is it something for every student population or an entire school district? Is it something for the parents or the community? Is it something that folks in other school districts should see and be able to come to? Something that the whole state should see? These are all considerations we have to make when we're thinking about an audience. We also have to consider the ease of posting. So who's going to post these things and when are they going to do it and how quickly can it be done, because nobody wants to spend 300 hours dealing with social media. Who's responsible for that stuff? Who's going to be the point person to really know what's working, what's not working? How many people will be needed to help us out? So we have to think about that. What's really going to give us the most bang for our buck? Like, what program, if we were to choose one out of all of them, is going to get us the most engagement as quickly as possible with the least amount of time dedicated to it? Really big consideration. Security, of course. How do we ensure that our events are secure? How to make sure our students observe this security measure? And then how do we monitor it? How do we know that it's working? How do we know what the best times are to post? Who's engaging with our content? Is it actually like 13 to 17-year-old students, or is it 25-year-old, 35-year-old adults? So these are all things we have to think about. So, and on the bigger level too, we also have to consider what we're putting out there insofar as content in general. So we have a whole branding guide. I'm not going to go into branding on a very deep level, but branding is all about being on brand, being consistent, making sure that everything looks the same. So SADD has a branding guide. It is on the portal for everybody's use. But some things we need to know about branding is when we're creating social media content, we need to make sure all of our logos look exactly the same. So the angle that this SADD logo is at, the angle that the New York logo is at, needs to remain the same. You can't just like skew it because it fits better. We can't change the colors of the logos. The colors that are on, like, let's say this presentation, are actually our brand colors. So those sorts of things are really important to creating that consistency and creating that continued engagement, because people are going to recognize our colors, our logos as our brand, and be able to easily identify, oh, that's a SADD post, I need to read that. So we have all that information that is on the portal, so we can check that out at any point. But generally, we want to make sure things look pretty consistent. So something like this would be what we're looking for. It has a nice picture of some lovely SADD students. It has our logo down here exactly as it should be. It has a font that we use all the time, and it has the colors that we use. Very simple. The way I like to push this out is, you see a commercial for Burger King, or you just see the letters BK. You know immediately that that is Burger King, because you've seen so many times in the same font, in the same colors, in the same commercials, that BK stands for Burger King, and I automatically think Whopper. Burger King is great at doing what they do because they keep it consistent. We need to be able to do the same thing. So your students can know when they're going through their feed, oh, that's a SADD post, that's what I need to look at today. Does that mostly make sense? Fabulous. Okay, so let's deep dive into some of these. So when we're talking Facebook, a lot of us are originally like, yes, Facebook is the way to go because we know it's going to reach the most broad amount of folks. Everybody's on Facebook. This is definitely what we should do for our chapter. The easiest thing. Yes and no. Some of the key things I think are really important. It is really easy to use. There's a desktop version for this. Teens do sometimes have accounts. We'll talk about that in a second. There are a lot of ways to engage. You can get insights, so you can see what's working, what's not, and I'll talk more about insights and analytics a little bit later. You can definitely still make those community connections. Most of the things out there, the community folks that we want to engage with, let's say our state DMV offices, our traffic safety folks, the people in our Stop DWI areas, they are all on Facebook for sure. So we can connect with them, we can like their pages, follow their pages. We can schedule posts on Facebook, which is a really nice feature. And SADD National does use Facebook rather heavily. So that's a good way to engage as well. Here's some big ones that we need to consider though. Only 51% of 13 to 17-year-olds use this platform. and I put use in very, very large quotations, because they're not necessarily using it to use it. They're actually using it to make sure that their parents are not posting something they don't want. They actually are calling it parental oversharing. So they're making sure that their parents are not posting like obnoxious photos of them doing something they didn't want anyone to see, or like pictures of them in the bathtub when they were younger. That's not something that they want out there for the rest of their lives. So they're trying to police their parents almost and say, no, Dad, you really shouldn't post that. That's not cool. My job isn't going to want to see that in 10 years. So there's this role reversal kind of happening on Facebook, where the students are generally just getting a Facebook so they can talk to their grandma or police their parent. So it's not really something that they're using necessarily. It's something that they have as a necessity almost, because the generational gap has more parents using Facebook than actual students. I do like some things about Facebook. So again, we can connect with folks like our DMV, our traffic safety personnel, and they do have private groups on Facebook that could be good for communicating with our chapters, can be good for communicating with local folks, but there's other ways to do that. There's other apps like Discord or GroupMe or even Remind that would help us connect. Yes, I see the Discord love. That help us connect even better than Facebook groups or pages would. So I personally don't love Facebook for chapter activities. It's something we post more as a community initiative rather than us using it as a chapter communication. I will say, if you are looking to Facebook though, I would definitely select a page over a group. A group is something that you don't have as many settings for. You can't allow folks to come, you can allow privacy, so that's nice, but it doesn't really help you with insights. You can't really see what's good and what's bad as to what you're posting. A page is basically like a private profile that you're making as your community group page. You can like and see other people's pages, they can like your page. So it is similar to a profile. You can share videos and stories, you can see insights. So if you're thinking about creating a Facebook for your group, I would say go with a page rather than a group. Long story short. Let's look at Twitter. So I actually was a little bit surprised at some of these statistics when I was checking them out. But in general, we know that students are not overly fond of Twitter these days. We think they're always on Twitter, they're always tweeting, like, getting back and forth with their favorite celebrities, and that is a subsect, let's call it, of folks that are into the influencer life. But for the most part, we're only seeing 32% of 13 to 7-year-olds using this platform. That's not a whole lot, and it's actually less than Facebook. So why? They think that Twitter is intense. They think it's toxic. They think it's political and it doesn't have an off switch. The thing about Twitter is they can't really filter the things they don't want to see. So someone could repost something, or they could follow a hashtag that posts something that they just don't want to see, and it's too heavy. They don't want to deal with it. They don't have the mental capacity or the wherewithal to deal with whatever's going on Twitter. So they generally stay away from it for the most part. I do like Twitter in a sense. You can engage with a lot of different community organizations that way. Most folks do have a community organization page or a community organization account with Twitter. Again, all of your DMVs, your traffic safety folks will have that, but Gen Z just doesn't find it exciting. There also is like a visual aspect to things that the teens today enjoy, which Twitter doesn't support as much as other platforms do. So they want to see more GIFs and videos and things, and Twitter doesn't support it as well. It could be a good way to engage with like high-profile celebrities or high-profile folks in your community, or really get a point across if you're doing some sort of advocacy work. But it generally, for me, not the best platform if we're going to use it for organizing purposes, other than the fact that we can see analytics and we know what's going to work and what's not. However, if we're going to use Twitter, 1 to 2 hashtags per tweet, maximum. This is showing the best analytics wise. If you're putting more than that, it's kind of getting lost in the shuffle. You want to be conversational as well. So make it something that you're having a conversation. You don't want to be putting out something too structured where it's like, come to our meeting today at 2 p.m. No, meeting, 2 p.m. That's it. Keep your copy really short, really sweet. Make it something fun, add emojis. You know, you want to just like cut down as much as you possibly can. There is a character content limit on Twitter as well, so you have to be very cautious of that. Use images and GIFs and videos as much as you possibly can, and then test everything. So put things out there, see what works. We have a saying, one of our coordinators loves it a lot, throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. You know, throw your tweeting spaghetti at the wall and see which one's gonna do best in your analytics, and what works best as far as times for posting and what content is working. You can always monitor those events and trending conversations also. So if you go to the desktop version of Twitter, I believe it's on mobile as well, on the right-hand side, it'll usually say what's trending. So if there's something that you're doing that actually engages really well with the what's trending topics, you want to make sure that you're using those hashtags, you're using those engagement techniques, because that's what's going to get your information seen more and retweeted more. I will share this presentation later on. You can click here for some more information about how to best use Twitter. So let's get into our favorite platform. Instagram is kind of where it's at. So as we talked about earlier, for the most consistent engagement, the one that's outperforming everybody else as far as actual engagement, it's Instagram. And Instagram kind of combines a little bit of everything from all social platforms and sticks it into one very easy to use engagement tool. It's absolutely free. It is pretty easy to use, but it is a mobile only version. There's really no desktop accessibility to this, which is slightly frustrating, but who doesn't have Instagram these days? Actually, I wouldn't if I didn't need it. So you want to make sure that if you're using Instagram, you as the advisor wants to have the access to the account on mobile. The desktop version is okay. You can upload your Instagram TV videos there, separate conversation. But you know, you can still keep up on things a little bit. There's a lot of ways to engage on Instagram. So it's not just the feed where people are posting photos and things. There's also stories. Stories are really important, particularly today. And there's Instagram TV. Like I mentioned, you can upload up to 15-minute videos or even longer through the desktop version, up to an hour. This really does have broad appeal. There are folks from every demographic on Instagram. It's one of the most widely used platforms today. You still can create those community connections. Most community organizations have some sort of an Instagram today. So again, DMVs, traffic safety folks, they all have it. But you can't schedule your posts, sort of. We'll talk about that. SADD National also uses Instagram very heavily, so it's really easy to engage with National or any of your state coordinators on Instagram, sharing our content and you know, kind of engaging in that way, tagging one another. 72% of 13 to 17-year-olds use this platform. That's a huge jump from Facebook at 50-something and even bigger from Twitter. So this is where it's at. And when we look at those and folks and break that down a little further, 63% of people are at least checking Instagram once a day, 42% checking multiple times per day. And I would argue that's probably more because people don't want to self-report that they're on social as much as they are. So when we're talking engagement, this is really the key. 23% more engagement here compared to Facebook, which is like 10 times as much engagement. The beauty to Instagram, though, I will say, Facebook owns them. So you can actually post things from Instagram to Facebook and just keep that post going. If you want to have 2 accounts, you can easily just post something on Instagram and it'll post to Facebook as well. So you're staying consistently engaged on both platforms, but doing very little with Facebook, to be honest. So best practices for Instagram. You have exactly 8 seconds to impress somebody. That sounds like a lot of time, but it also sounds like this much time. 8 seconds is not that long. So when you're considering someone scrolling through their Instagram feed, if you've ever seen what Instagram looks like, you just scroll through the feed and just see picture after picture with a little bit of text. If you consider that folks scroll through their screen pretty quickly, they look at the photo, if they see some text, great, and then they move on. You have 8 seconds to make that impression for them to recognize the photo and what's going on in it, read the text if there's anything on it, and then go into the actual text of the post and see if there's anything engaging for them there before they're moving on. 8 seconds is not a whole lot of time. So we got to keep things real short, real sweet. We got to make sure that the text that we're keeping in the posts that we're making is short because we're not going to read the whole thing. We have to make sure that the text that we're putting in the actual post is short and sweet again. And we have to make sure that we're linking them back to something actionable, because that's really important for this generation as well. They like to have somewhere else to go to investigate what it is that they're supposed to be doing. So very often you'll see that people put link in bio in their post text. That link in bio means that in the biography section of your profile, there is a link that you can go to that will link you to whatever it is that they were telling you about. On Instagram, you can only have one link in your bio. I know, magic. So magic numbers, 8 seconds, and hashtags. Hashtags are absolutely going to be required on Instagram at this point. The magic number is actually 11. Typically between 8 and 14 is a good place to be if you're using hashtags, but the magic number is actually 11, weirdly. And the longer the hashtag, the better, studies show. So we ran a campaign all summer long that was SADD, super safe summer. And every time I had to type it out, I was absolutely livid. But the longer the better actually works here. So it worked in our favor, and we did really well all summer long with that hashtag, because it was like eons long. If you have at least one hashtag in your post at some point, it actually increases your engagement by 12% or more. Crazy. One of the big things about Instagram is that it was created as a sharing website to share what's going on in the moment. So you want to capture those moments in the wild. You want to show those things that your chapter is doing right now. So we're having a meeting, take a picture of it, or take some sort of video to go on your story. You want to capture those moments as they're happening. It's something that they created, this FOMO generation, the fear of missing out generation, and it's all about that instant gratification and what am I missing out on? What can I do right now? If you're posting things about things that are happening right now, SADD is having a meeting right now, come down to room 302. That's the kind of in the wild moments we're talking about that are perfect for Instagram as a platform. We want less of those stage pictures where everyone's standing next to each other with the arms over each other's shoulders. Not that we can do that now anyway. But we want less of those like prom photos and more of those, what do we want to call it? Quick capture moments. I've mentioned stories and videos also. These are absolute gold for Instagram. So stories actually get us the most engagement for most of us as state coordinators. You need to create that fear of missing out or FOMO feeling. And when you're using the stories feature, stickers account for 83% of a boost. That number actually surprised me. So using a sticker on a story is huge. If you actually go to the top of a story, when you're creating it, there's a little button that says stickers, and you can choose from 1,000 different things, and usually they move and they're fun, or they have arrows and they point you to do something. Those stickers will create a huge boost in the folks that are able to see your stories, that'll engage with your stories, particularly if you're putting up something like a poll or a question. Those stickers are incredible at making sure you can poll your audience or have those engagements with your audience. Again, on this platform, you want to be conversational. So you'll see a lot of screenshots of tweets or quotes that people take. It's something that actually breaks up the feed too. So when you're scrolling through your feed and you see picture, 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 and then all of a sudden you see text, it actually breaks it up and your brain goes, oh, I need to read that, because we're wired to read things that pop up in front of us. So having that conversational moment with a screenshot of a quote or something, or a post with simple wording, really important. I'll actually show you an example of that later. Many of our school chapters do it for meetings. Make sure that everything in your accounts is shareable. That's a really big one. So make sure that someone could hit that share button and share things to their stories. And be direct. You'll hear often that our students are saying that they slide into the DMs. DMs are direct messages, and what that basically is allowing you to do is have that direct message or that instant message with the account that you're talking to. So I think that DMs are a really great tool. You can actually send a post to all of your followers through DMs, and they would get a separate notification for that. It's something that is really useful on the chapter level, because you can send that to all of your followers and say, hey, we're having this meeting tonight. or hey, big traffic safety event happening this weekend, come on out, you're gonna get a free swag bag. That can go to every single one of your folks. And I think the big one here with Instagram is to make sure that your students lead. So they know how to use these platforms really, really well. They know the tips and tricks, they know the stories that are gonna get engagement because they're doing it all day long. They know how to create these challenges and create engaging things that are going to bring it up that extra level. So don't be afraid to kind of hand over the reins and let them do it. I'm not saying don't monitor them. I'm not saying give them free for all time and let them post whatever they want. Maybe they still have to get things approved by you before it's posted, or make sure that you, of course, have a login as well to see what they're posting so you can take things down if you need to. But for the most part, your students know what's going to work. Okay, one of the other big things I will say is that if you're going to look for analytics on Instagram, which is really important, and we'll talk about those insights in 1 second, you want to make sure that your account is set up as a business account. So when you originally sign up for the account with your chapter, make sure that you're signing up as a business account. You may have to transfer it over later on. That's totally fine. You can go into your settings and transfer it into a business account, and that will actually allow you to have those analytics to see what's working. So here's some things we can try on Instagram. We want to use that poll and quiz feature. I talked about that. We want to add those stickers, going live and doing how-to videos, programming videos. If you're having, I don't know, a chapter vote, go live with that. Oh, we're voting today on what our next whatever is going to be, what our next activity. Do a live on that. Have someone record what your chapter is doing right then. If you're doing a Rock the Belt event, absolutely take a live video of that quick click challenge or whatever it is that you're doing in the field that day, because that's what people want to see. They'll actually engage more with those live and in the moment videos. You can host or join a challenge. So Kevin is rather modest, but he put out this awesome work zone challenge video. I think we shared it like last week or 2 weeks ago, where he actually took on a challenge that all of the students were doing. So we've all seen the TikTok challenges, everybody's dancing and doing something different. Kevin was able to take part in that, and he got a ton of engagement of other kids that were enjoying not only what he did to replicate the challenge, but they also engaged in the challenge as well. They learned the dance moves and they did it themselves, which was incredible. You can also post teasers to events or activities that you're doing. So, you know, take a close-up picture of the swag bag that you're giving away, or whatever your food may be for the day. Take a picture of the menu. Some teasers to events are really big. You can also host social takeovers. So you can allow, let's say, the football team to take over your account for the day. I don't know. Saratoga SADD football team takes over the Saratoga SADD chapter account for the day. That doesn't mean they get full access to all your SADD accounts or anything, but they can send you posts and things that you approve, and you put them up as a chapter throughout the day. Now you're not only getting engagement from the football crowd and the football parents and the people that like the football team, but you're getting engagement from other athletes. You're getting engagement from a whole new set of folks that you normally may not see participate in SADD activities. So you can approach other teams, other groups to take over your socials for the day. Likewise, you can do that for them as well. And doing interviews too is really cool. So you can do an interview with your chapter president. You can do an interview with the school principal as to why they think SADD is really important in the district, or some new thing that's going on. Maybe you started a new vaping prevention campaign. So doing an interview with folks is really great. And just making sure you've got those student voices out there and showing not only their photos, but their work. You can do that without actually showing faces. You can keep it anonymous if you would like to, or if your district requires that, or if your students don't want to be in photos, you can still show photos of people doing things without showing their faces and keeping things anonymous. I actually have an example of that in a second. So here's some try-ideas. Let's try some of these things. So you'll see here that our one of our SADD clubs put up just a quick meeting post. It's just text. It's really quick. We're meeting at this time. We're meeting in this place. Also, I'm ordering pizza. That engaged me, and I don't even know where the meeting is. The same with this one. Just very simple. We're meeting here. this is our Zoom meeting for the day, here's the password, great. I know that we just discussed this and it's a little challenging for some of us right now. Our meetings are getting taken over if we put up things publicly, so maybe we don't want to put it up publicly, but this is something where they can reach out to you in those DMs or direct messages and say, hey, what's that meeting code? Real easy. So they don't have to email anybody, they don't have to stop by your room, they can just DM and get the code for it. You know them because they're friends with you or you recognize their photo, perfect. Same with this one. This was actually a little bit longer, but it's something that gave our one of our chapters a little bit of hope, a little bit of understanding. They were communicating with their chapter in a way that made sense to them as things started to shut down for COVID-19. And they kind of kept things going that way. You can also post things like leadership positions. That is a huge one. So we have an opening for the SADD treasurer. Are you looking for volunteer hours? Easy. We also did a series sharing some information about our students as they graduated from school last year and went on to their exciting college lives. So showing those personal moments and that we're thanking our SADD members for doing the things that they do. Super important. And like I said earlier with the anonymity, like you're still seeing a person here, but you have no idea who this is. So some sort of post like this would be great to highlight your students while at the same time making sure they stay anonymous. When I was talking about stories earlier, you can add these stickers. That's what these are here. So you can ask a question and that question will come back to you in the Instagram admin end. Same with these polls. So folks just have to press one of these buttons to answer it, and you can see the poll results on the back end of your account. Actually, that is, poll is this. Things are quite small on this side. So how do we know what works? I think it's really important to be able to have insights. It is a huge marketing tool, but you don't have to go down this like giant rabbit hole of getting all these crazy insights. You just need some basic information as to what works and what doesn't. So when you have this business account, you go into the insights panel and the insights will tell you how many accounts you reached, how many people interacted with that content, and how many followers you have. And that's some really important information. You know, maybe this week we want to try to build followers. So you send your SADD chapter members out and you hope that they're inviting as many people that they know as possible to like your SADD account. Maybe you're trying to reach more accounts. So maybe you have to investigate what's a better hashtag that we can use. Maybe we need to use hashtag SADD20 to get a little bit more engagement on our posts. You can also see how your posts specifically were doing. So you can click on each one of these posts and it will tell you, you know, how many people saw it, how many people engaged with it, how many people took a poll on that story. It's important information to have. One of the biggest ones that I like to look at is when the accounts were reached and what days are best to be posting. So you're going to find that there becomes a pattern in the postings that you do on when it's best to post for your accounts. And apparently for us, it's Wednesdays. So you'll see this start to populate as your accounts receive more follows and more impressions. Same with this kind of information, the content interactions, like how many people are liking it, how many people are interacting with each specific post. And then finally, you can also look down in the audience breakdown and see, you know, what percentage of women versus men are signed up, what age groups they are, that's up here. I don't particularly care that this is not non-binary, but okay. Instagram, I'm sure, is working on it. And then when those most active times are. So this is another important one. You not only want to know what days are the best days for you to be posting, but what times you should be posting. So Mondays, I'm supposed to be posting at 3 p.m. That's when I get the most engagement. It's really good to know that because then you can look to your social media person in the chapter and say, Mondays at 3 p.m., you're on it, right? Great. So one of the biggest questions is, how do I stay consistent? I don't want to be on Instagram at midnight and trying to like post things. I don't need to be doing this on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. I did say that Instagram does not have a scheduling feature. However, there is a company called Later. It's just later.com. And they will hook up to your Instagram account and allow you to do free post scheduling. It is only for posts, not for stories. Those do need to be done in the moment, but later will allow you to schedule posts ahead of time. So if you as the advisor have specific things you want to put out, say every Tuesday night you want to put out something about the meeting that's going to happen tomorrow night, you can do that, schedule it for Tuesday night at whatever time, put in your post, and it'll go. It is free for, I think, up to 30 per month. So it's pretty user-friendly. That is one way to use a scheduling software for your Instagram accounts. It'll schedule Facebook and Twitter also. So bottom line, because I've been talking way too long, you really just need to start accounts. It's really important. It's a huge marketing tool, and it's the way that our students are communicating with one another. So we really need to communicate with them that way, in the way that they know best. Let them lead the efforts. They know what it is that's going to work best on their peers. They know what they like to see. They know what content is something that reaches them. So they're going to be able to produce that content also. You can pre-approve it before they put it up, but kind of let them have a little slack and let them do what they think is going to be best. Be consistent, stay on brand, highlight the events that you're doing, and follow those community accounts. Social media is a lot about reciprocal relationships. So you want to make sure that if your DMV is following you, you're following the DMV. If your school district is following you, you're following the school district. You gotta make sure that that reciprocal relationship happens, assuming that the accounts are appropriate, to make sure that you're building that following, you're building that brand. And then the big one is show and don't tell. You don't need to tell everybody what's going on in the video or whatever. No, you're good. Just show them what's happening. They'll figure it out. Videos and stories are really essential to doing the work that we do, and the challenges for sure, making sure that everyone can show themselves doing some sort of dance. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at any time. You can follow us on all of our SADD accounts. All of our internal state coordinators have each one of those. Most of us have YouTube now too. Definitely follow SADD Nation. They put out things all of the time that's like exclusive to social media. So you're not going to get an email about it. You're just going to see it on Facebook or Instagram. There is actually a national advisors group on Facebook as well. So that's something you could join and kind of pick other advisors' brains, see what's working best in other places, or if you can get ideas for different activities. So that actually exists on the interweb. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime, either to me or any of the other state coordinators. We're all happy to help as much as we can. The biggest thing I can say, give it a whirl. Throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, because you can't really necessarily do anything wrong on social media. I've never seen numbers go negative. I'll put it that way. Do we have any questions?
I was going to ask you, I was going to put it in the chat, but since there's not that very many of us, can you have multiple logins in Instagram? Like, I have the account under my name, but does that mean I'm the only one who can make the posts?
It doesn't mean you're the only one that can make the posts, but everyone would have to use your login information.
Okay, so that's, yeah, so I set it up, okay. Okay, so if I give that login information to students, then they can make posts also.
Absolutely. As long as they have the login information for the main account, you are good to go.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
No, that's a really good question. So Facebook actually doesn't allow you to do that. Facebook, each person has to have their own account to be able to make them admins, which is another kind of like wonky thing about Facebook. Twitter, you can all use the same one. Again, you gotta just make sure that you trust your students and that they're not gonna abuse the privilege of having the information, but you could always go in and change the password too, so.
True, okay, cool, thank you. No, this is lots of information. I appreciate it.
I really just hope that this has kind of removed some of the scariness of social media. You can see what's going on, you can know what's working. It really is one of those like cool data point things that will, in a math sense, I guess, show good results. I'm not a math teacher, clearly. But social is a great tool, and it's something we can all use, and it can be used really well, and it can be used effectively. So it's something that we should really push our chapters or our districts to allow our chapters to have, because it's a great engagement tool.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I think, Lauren, that was amazing presentation. Loved it. So thank you very much for putting this together. I think like a great starter that you can do, maybe you're still unsure with your chapters, is simply to just go talk to your chapter leadership and be like, hey, what role do you all see social media playing for our chapter this year? And again, letting them drive those conversations and how much they want to post. That way you don't have to be the one to do it all. And actually you don't have to be the one to do it at all. Because I don't think that, I think that the students really know what can really speak to other students. And one other thing that you can do as well, you can repost a lot of content that you see or have students repost content. That's a really great way to do it. Just go to any one of our social media profiles and you can see a lot of the people we follow are like mental health experts or traffic safety experts or drug and substance use experts. And that's what we do a lot. We just end up sharing their stuff just to be consistent, and allowing the students to share what they see or find is important will help you build that sort of community together through social media.
Oh yeah, I think that's something that's really important to stress. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We can share things that others have created and posted, and it is almost as effective as if we had done it ourselves. I'll also plug one of our favorite tools is Canva, C-A-N-V-A. It is completely user-friendly, and it's something that you can use for free. There is a free version. Most of the graphics and things that we create, including the presentation you're currently watching, is created on Canva. You can upload SADD logos to it and add different things to make things fun, and it's just an easy editing software. Most of the kids are already using it. So Canva is huge. Use it.
Can I ask a stupid question?
There are no stupid questions.
Well, because there's not that many of us, so I can ask this, right? What's the difference between using a hashtag and using the @ sign?
So when you're using a hashtag, you're using something that someone else created for a specific topic. So again, we'll use ourselves, hashtag SADD20. That's something that we started because we wanted to highlight all the things that we were doing this year. It's something you can just kind of throw on your posts so that if someone looks at hashtag 20 and clicks on hashtag 20, they'll see every other post that anyone else tagged with hashtag 20. Whereas adding somebody or tagging them in something is using the @ symbol. So if you say @SADD Nation, you're basically asking SADD Nation to look at your post, and you're tagging them in your post to say, hey, @SADD Nation might like this, or hey, @SADD Nation, check out what we're doing. It's basically calling someone's attention to what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of if you @ someone, they kind of get a notification or like they get an email in their inbox saying, oh, someone is someone is calling you to see this message or this post. So for example, if you're posting about if you want to post about a SADD meeting and you make a post about it and you @ all of your SADD students, they'll get a notification that says, oh, hey, your Helix SADD has mentioned you in this post, and then they can see the post and they'll get a notification for it.
Okay.
And if you mention them in your story as well, then they can also share that post into their story, so that way it gets more visibility.
Likewise, you could ask people to at events if they're at, let's say, a Rock the Belt event for you or something. You can say, add us on Twitter, or whatever, add us on Instagram or tag us on Instagram. If they tag you or use the @ symbol in your handle on their story, you will get a notification that they used it and tagged you, and then you can share it as the chapter and say, hey, look, Joe shared this from the event today.
Cool. Okay. That makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool engagement tool. Good question. Any other winners? Bottom line, social's not scary. So I thank you all for participating. I'm really excited that we're going to be using social more often. It's definitely become a pet project for many of us. It's got its own science. It's been fun.
And watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix, and you can see how social media is also a little bit challenging. Or so
Yeah,
I
sure.
have not yet to watch it, but I'm going to watch it.
And just know that if and when you start accounts, if you follow us, we will follow you back. We love to follow our chapters and see what you guys are doing. We love to share what you guys are doing, especially if you're doing something really cool and innovative. We love sharing that stuff and saying, hey, other New York chapters, check out what they're doing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evenings or afternoons, whatever it is by you.